Alright. Well, I know it looks like a lot, and it is an okay amount, but it's, you know, a bunch of packages with only a... Even this one looks like it's big and has a lot, but I think it only has 3 non-limited edition things in it, and I'm having trouble. It doesn't help that there's 4 of these littler ones. And they're not exactly balanced. This thing being a piece of crap. Cut already. Jeez. 3 things. Nothing else. And then for all of these, we want to link. Maybe that's part of the problem. I want to start them up here so I can just put the scissor away, and we can just no wonder. Well, alright. Let's line them up and begin with Domestic Girlfriend, which I'm wondering if there was a limited edition version of. If there was, I'm not sure why I didn't order it, but this here. Don't know what it's about though. It's got an English dub, Region A, 12 episodes on 2 discs, special features, clean opening and closing animations, Sentai trailers. So there's a weird thing to think about that, but I don't know. I just want to get it peeked at, because I don't know what's going on with this show. But let's move forward to... I cannot read the text there at all. It's a girl who chants love at the bound of the world? The boundary of the world? At the... What the fuck? Let's get some sexy night sky or something. Take a peek at the back. That is a rather unclothed girl. Time is reversible, history is not. Special features, opening and ending. There's an English dub, Region A and B. 13 episodes on 2 Blu-ray discs. Visual novel game. Yeah, all I can say is, yeah, still, although it's interesting, because I guess, this is actually part 1. Okay, good. See, I didn't notice the part 1 there, because I just noticed, hey, I can't read that, but because it's the same thing as this. So, I don't have to read it, I can just see it and know what it is. Although, I wonder if I missed some sort of limited edition version with a thing. I see some girls there, and there's that naked one. Assuming that's a girl. I think there's a little drawing there that could indicate that she does have a chest, or they have a chest. But otherwise, I was kind of thinking, you know, they could very easily be a long-haired dude. Like, there's something about the face that's slightly on the androgynous side, but I think it's supposed to be a girl. this is part 2. Well, let's see some sexy Crimson Sky. Whoop. Unless that's not a sky, but then that's somebody's very evil aura, I guess. This looks like that same, probably girl. Yeah, I mean, they do have a chest. They do seem to be wearing slightly more clothes, but not quite enough to be normal, huh? Different realities, same problems. It's definitely curious. Regions A and B as well. Another 13 episodes on 2 discs. Special features include Infinite Parallel Worlds, Episode 20, commentary, textless opening and ending songs. It's interesting when parts 1 and part 2 get released like this. I guess I could understand them wanting to make it easier for people to purchase, like, in chunks, if that's what they feel they need to do. Is that the same this person? Because they don't look as well endowed, but you know, this is coming out. Are these both the same people? They look like different people. They do seem to have a similar problem of not being able to completely fully clothe themselves. They look like VR chat avatars in that regard, but weird. I don't know what to make of this. I do know that I forgot to put this thing back in here. Oops. But now it's done. Next up we have Bungo Stray Dogs, Season 3. So I think last week we had a movie that takes place between Seasons 2 and Season 3, and so today we have Season 3. With a little sexy leg. No. I can't. What is this person doing? Is that part of coat? I thought that's his foot. So is his leg going like that? But he looks even more frog-legged than a frog person. Like, even Froppy would be embarrassed to see that. Although I don't know that Froppy gets embarrassed. No, she probably does. Regions A and B, English dub, special features, alternative opening video, textless opening and ending, and songs, Japanese trailer. And this one is Blu-ray and DVD, unlike the 2 previous Blu-ray only things, so it's a little heavier. Not that y'all can feel it. Y'all might be able to feel it, but I don't know. I meant, like, feel it from a visual standpoint. Like, whoa, that one is very staticky. Let's set that down there and take a look at Cat. You know, I haven't watched any of this. Blu-ray 1, Blu-ray 2, DVD 1, DVD 2, more image. This is a very side versus side sort of thing. It makes me wonder what this anime is even about now that I see that. Because I honestly don't know. I do know. We have Authors Never Die. Continue with the manga and the light novels. I guess it's, maybe this isn't all of the content, but if you've enjoyed Bungo Stray Dogs this far, then this is letting you know that you can continue on the manga, which is kind of interesting. Reminds me a little bit of Inuyasha, and how at the end of the 7th season of the series strictly called Inuyasha, I think they had Inuyasha come out and tell you that the rest of it is in the manga, and then they made Inuyasha Final something or the other. Sarazanmai? The director's name is not immediately ringing a bell. The complete series, so let's take the sticker off and look at some sexy symbols. Oh, there's a thing there. So I think those are, oh, Kappa. So there's a golden-haired Kappa. Kappa? Well, looking at the back, I see a region A and B. That's 11 episodes. English dub, Special features. Commentary, Simply Sour reports, web trailers, textless opening song, textless ending song. They want to connect, but this is a different on the inside. What in the world? These the same characters? I got no fucking clue. I'm going to take this off because I can't even tell if like these are definitely, oh yes, those people, except they grew it up. It looks like a completely different show with the same exact name. I'm even noticing that we've got a little Kappa thing there, but we've got a little ferret thing there, or that might not be a ferret. Huh. Well, that's strange. Let's see. Disc 1. Disc 2. Huh. You know, this is kind of hard to see because her head's really high up, but I guess this means this show actually has some ladies in it. It kind of surprised me. It struck me as a very guy-populated one, but now I don't know what to make of it. Well, I guess I didn't know either before, so nothing's really changed in that regard. Other than the fact that we are now going to move this back up and look at Restage. Dream Days. There's not time to be idle if you want to be an idol. Hey, it rhymes. Oh yeah. On the back, I see Region A only. I see 12 discs. Japanese with English subtitles only. All 12 episodes on 2 discs. Special features. Kira Ray's remount. Call. Clean opening, closing, Sentai trailers. Trying to think if there's something familiar about her, but I have no idea what this even is. Other than an idol anime. Okay. And, last but not least, Fairy Gone, Season 1, Part 1. Huh. So let's get some sexy title card. Ooh. Didn't feel like it wanted to completely come off cleanly. Maybe it didn't. The fight for life begins after the war. So I see a Region AB there. I see 12 episodes on 2 Blu-ray discs. I see an English dub and special features. Fairy Gone interview with cast and crew. Episode or song Rodeo. What? Episode 2 song. Episode 1. Episode 1. Episode 2 song Backtrack. Textless opening song, textless ending song. Oh, and it's got a different thing on the inside. So yeah, this is nice and creepy. Nowadays it seems very SCP-esque, but it is kind of fairy tale-esque, I would say. Like the kind that you would tell kids to make them scared straight. Well, it's a disc 1 and disc 2. On the inside, oh, we've got 2 ladies there. Lying in the grass, and there seems to be something very spirity fey in the general vicinity. How interesting. I'm not sure what to make of this week's haul, but here's this week's anime DVD collection update. But I had something else arrive a couple of days ago. So I had an unexpected delivery today. Now, as of the time I'm posting this video, it's going to be many days from now. I'm trying to figure out how to get this out. But, you know, might as well figure out how to slide this out. And it doesn't help that I'm trying to record this and I'm putting it on the table. Yada, yada, yada. Let's just get the box up here like this. There we go. I do believe this side is the top. So, I have a little upside down here. And of course I'm actually intentionally keeping those there, because if you have not figured it out, this is a valve index. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with what a valve index is, it's valves. Well, I guess so I think the HTC Vive, I think whoever worked on it, jeez, there's a corner over here. Whoever worked on the Vive stuff, I think Valve worked with them initially, and so there's some of that technology that's kind of shared between them. And this is sealed. I'm just making sure there aren't other seals to worry about. But I'm not sure if this was Valve's independent thing, because I think they're still two different companies. But it is the case that this has Valve's name on it, works with Steam VR, and the index is just well known for having finger tracking. Now, I do believe there are newer generations of VR stuff coming out, but at the same time, you know, I'm getting this in order to play with it. There was something there. Interesting. But I kind of figured I would at least open this up for y'all here. Well, let's not go too far with these scissors. I don't know if I'll need them again. I'm not planning to try and figure setting this all up for y'all. But I do want to dig through this a bit, so... Interesting. So, yeah, one of the things the Index is known for is supporting finger tracking. I'm looking at this trying to think, is this the right hand one and this the left hand one? Or should it be the other way around? I'm pretty sure that's correct. Except... Because, like, I think this somehow tracks the fingers, but I don't see how. Interesting. But this does feel like a natural way to do it. And I guess the idea is these strips hold onto your hand so that you just do this. So if I were to compare with the HTC Vive controller, you know, because I have it right here, I guess the idea is they probably expect you to wear these. I've honestly never done so. But you basically hold on to it like this. Now, this doesn't naturally rest on your arm without you doing anything like this. This isn't too bad. Like that, I think you have to do a little bit. Interesting, but things to think about. You know, this has been okay, other than the fact that there is a manufacturing flaw with these, where, you know, this pad right here, it can tell where on the pad you're sensing. It can tell where you're pushing it. So it senses multiple directions. So it may look like one button, but it's really kind of its own complete thing. So some games might separate to just an up and down, or maybe up, left, right, down, or maybe like 7 cardinal directions or something weird like that. And sometimes they'll treat touching it differently from pushing it in. Pretty cool. But yeah, we'll have to see what the index is like, because I am a bit worried about hand gestures in VR chat, mostly because I've just gotten used to the way the Vive controllers do that stuff, and I've been developing my avatars for a long time under that presumption. So this was floating around, but I think that's okay. I'm trying to decide what's even in here. It's surprisingly heavy. There's an opening there. This is probably software of some sort, and this... yes, so this on the front is covering it up, but these are the, not the new base stations, these are the new lighthouses. So, even though there's a lot of the same technology, and I think this will work with my current base station setup, but I will eventually replace it with this base station. These are Lighthouse 2.0s, or they should be. And I think, so my understanding is the main difference is Lighthouse 1.0 has a sync signal that it sends every once in a while, and Lighthouse 2.0 hardware can work with that just fine, but Lighthouse 1.0 hardware, like my Vive controllers, cannot detect these lighthouses because these do not have those sync signals. I see these have a little screw on the bottom thing. This might mean I might be able to use my existing mounts, although I'll probably have to figure that out. Oof, this was loose, and of course it should be stuck to those, but I think that's all fine. And I already forgot which side I was trying to open these from. Right here. Yeah, because I don't know how well it looks on the camera, but I am having trouble seeing. And I'm mostly curious because this has shiny on it, and so shiny kind of makes you want to... What the fucking hell? Interesting. This looks like a microfiber cloth. Safety, maintenance, regulatory, and warranty, and agreement information. Setup guide. So these are a bunch of different languages setup guides. Interesting. Oh, and I'm not quite sure. Maybe I can look at these and find the answer. Let's look at the controllers real quick. Man, having trouble closing that. Oh, look. There's a power plug. That's not what I was looking for, but that's interesting. So that's probably the circle, then 2 half circles. That indicates index. Well, now I'm kind of curious how this thing tracks, because I put the controller away, but let's bring it back, because the way this thing tracks is with all these openings at the top there. Those are all bunch of cameras that allow it to figure out where it is in relation to the lighthouses. So the idea is the lighthouses stay in their one place, projecting light, and yeah, there's stuff on the Vive, the HTC Vive controller too. You can kind of see it's designed to kind of see where the light is coming from. And this one, it's not as obvious in that regard. I guess, oh yeah, I can put that up there. Interesting. I don't know if that was intentional, but you can take a look at the headset. See, one of the things I'm worried about with the headset is it's got the little headphones built into it right here. And I'll have to see if that works for me or not. I've got my own headphones. As you can see, these are nice ear clamping, really engross yourself, because you can just plug into the controller right there, the headset right there. So that'll be an interesting thing to explore for this. It might be better because with these built in, maybe they just work correctly. Interesting little adjuster there. I think those are 2 cameras so that it can do 3D on front. I see a button there. I see something to adjust the distance of the eyes, because not everybody has a head built exactly the same. Oh, interesting. That's a thing I think to pull out. Probably covering the lens to protect them. And here you have we have 3 plugs, and there were 3 plugs before. You got USB, you've got HDMI. Is that HDMI? That might be DisplayPort. Interesting. And then you've got that opening. Okay, that's all pretty interesting. But let's see. These are all the main parts, but I suspect, yeah, we have to dig into it to actually find additional peripherals. I figure trying to take a peek at all that stuff is probably not a bad idea. I'm a bit wondering why that's open. Is that supposed to be open? I guess it's something I can find out later. We've got some sort of pad here. I'm not sure what it's for. I suspect it connects to the headset in some way, but I can't see where. In fact, one thing I'm noticing is there's some spacing there. I think this headset may already have something attached to it that allows it to work with glasses. So basically, you know, the glasses stand. This is the stand for the base, for the lighthouses, sorry. Down here, taped to the inside, I see the screws if you want to mount it. Now, I'm in an apartment, so I'm not mounting these. I'm actually doing weird things to weigh them down, twist, tie them, and I'm surprised that they've lasted as long as they have. This, yes, that's the controller. So these are plugs for the controller. That looks like it's USB-C. Which is kind of nice, because with the existing ones, I mean, I've gotten used to... Oof. Okay, there we go. I've gotten used to, with the existing ones, you know, lining it up and plugging in just perfectly fine. The USB-C prevents that, and that appears to be a probably a wrist, something tied to your wrist to prevent it from going places. Let's see. Yes. See, those are the lighthouses, so this is some sort of cable related to that. Now, in theory, the lighthouses only require power, I think, because I think they communicate some information to the base station relating to whether or not they are properly synced up. I see. So this is the base power. So basically, this is a sort of adapter, and this is another adapter. You combine the two of these to get what is your normal American outlet. And this also has the 2 speakers on it, so this is the power cable. That is a different thing. So I think the current ones are pretty standard power jacks. Maybe this one is too, but this side is kind of your weird plastic clip. Kind of similar to the way a lot of power stuff works on the inside of PCs now, except this one looks a lot smaller. But this should be a lower power because it really just needs to... Well, that went in there surprisingly easy. Okay. Interesting. And on the other side here, we have the same stuff. A power cable for the controller, base stand for the lighthouse. So you have 2 lighthouses and you have 2 of those. One of the advantages of Lighthouse 2 is it actually supports a total of 3 lighthouses. And I don't know if I'll do that yet, but I don't need to do that yet. And I would hope this is the base station, but you know, this has a picture of the headset on it. So I don't know if this is that or not. So it's got another one of these adapters. Does this mean it plugs directly into the system. That might not be a bad thing, but that would be an interesting change of pace. I'm going to take a peek underneath here. Not seeing anything else under there, so I hope I'm not missing something there. But I think the way to find out is to really quickly dig into this setup guide. Let's see. Yes, I know. 2. Okay, this booklet is a little weird. Oh, of course, it's not a booklet. It says attach your base station stands. Connect your headset to computer DisplayPort, to computer USB 3.0. And the headset has its own standalone power adapter. Turn on your controllers, enjoy VR. Okay, let's see what the back says. It tells you how to wear your controllers. So yeah, it did come with straps. I may or may not attach those. I guess I'll figure this out. Headset for fit. Fine-tuning image clarity. Positioning audio. So instead of covering my ears, it looks like they want them to hover outside. Now that might be a good thing or a bad thing. It'd be a bad thing if it does reduce the basically the overall feeling of being in the VR experience. Because again, you know, the advantage of boxes on these. So the advantage of headphones like these is, you know, they cup around the ears and they really isolate a lot of stuff. These might even be noise canceling. I don't know that I would depend on that being the case, but if it does cancel noise, then that would also be something. But let's just assume, for all intents and purposes, this makes it where you're more likely to only hear the audio from the game itself, which is really good for being in that experience. Still don't know what the microphone will be like on this thing, but that's all built in. But yeah, that's the index, so I guess I'll just have to fire this up and give it a shot. So the only anime I watched this week was Mob Psycho 100 Season 2. Other than other whatever stuff I've watched here and there, that wasn't really a watching of thing. Basically, I thought it was really fun. There's an interesting pattern between Season 1 and Season 2. I think this is intentional. Where the seasons seem to kind of begin with a sort of slice of life. Oh, Mob secretly has psychic powers, but this is him and kind of exploring a sort of mundane life, for lack of better words. But then the second halves tend to be something sort of like a shonen battle anime, but not really. It's like you see some of the tellings sort of show up, but it's really kind of action-y. Whereas earlier stuff, even if it seems action-y, isn't compared to the latter stuff. And this is within the individual seasons, and so it was interesting to see Season 2 do that. It was very enjoyable to watch the stuff. Neat things were there. Lots of action. Some of it was very... So there's a type of action that I don't care for, where it's like, I don't know where the stakes are, so this or this or that happens, and it doesn't feel like there's weight. So like... Black Rock Shooter is a really good example where it's like, oh, they have guns and, oh, man, they managed to shoot each other in the face with their guns, but it didn't do anything. So it's just like, the fact that they're shooting with the guns doesn't really feel satisfying, I guess. And when you're trying to go with over-the-top psychic powers like this has, sometimes it sort of feels a little bit like that, but it's not as bad as that. It was still very entertaining. It was still... You understood the stakes involved. You felt the stakes involved. You wondered how they were going to resolve, I guess. You kind of knew some of the answers, but at the same time, the how is the interesting part. And, unfortunately, it would have been good to have probably rewatched Season 1 or flipped through it or something like that, because there were a lot of characters, especially from the second half of the first season, that showed up again in this one that I did not remember too well. And unfortunately, I don't think that's anything wrong with season 1. I think it's just a problem with the amount of time difference between them and the fact that, I'm getting older and, I'm not old or anything like that, but I am not young anymore, and yeah. I don't know, I've always kind of depended on winging it for series where I can't remember all the characters. But as for the main characters, especially Mob and Master, and I don't remember any of their names beyond that. Well, I thought they were more interesting this time. So there's always this weird thing where, Mob is set up as a powerful psychic who's a real psychic, a real Esper, but Master is basically a con man pretending to be a psychic sort of thing, and from what I remember of the first season, that vibe was there, but despite the fact that, Mob didn't know he wasn't psychic or something like that, the first season made that really work, and I thought the second season went even better with it, but I don't remember exactly what happened in the first season, so I'm going with the feeling of they kind of acknowledge it's there, but it felt like they had a lot more fun with some of the stuff that happened there. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but basically, yeah, it was basically very fun. I liked what they did with it, even though it's normally a very cringe, I don't know how I can continue watching this. It's not quite like Rising of the Shield Hero, where Rising of the Shield Hero takes what could very easily make that an unwatchable show, and they make that the driving point, which could still make it unwatchable for some people, but, they intentionally invoke those emotions in you, and they make sure that those aren't just feelings of frustration. They use it to pull you along in the story, and it's relevant, and things happen, and you get a certain degree of satisfaction from that. And so this doesn't quite do that, because that cringe element is there. I think it was there in the first season, but it's not really what drives you to continue going forward, I think. But it doesn't hinder it as much as it would. It handles it pretty well. It's just not a driving force. So, I don't know. Weird thing to say there. So overall, I enjoyed it. I'm trying to think if there is a reason to want to see more for sure. If they give an indication of something. But I've already forgotten what was happening at the very end of the credits, I guess. So, before I talk about anything else, anybody curious about my Animal Crossing stuff? That just continues to progress. I now have 2 blue roses. I should have had more by now, but the blue roses are being particularly stubborn about not replicating. So, I got one lucky, and then I got a couple reds that can produce blues, but those reds haven't bred at all. The blues haven't bred other than the first cloning on the very first day, and that's okay. I'm beginning to look into the other flowers and hybridizing them so I can set stuff up there, just because it'd be nice to kind of give that as an option. Oh yeah, you wanted a pink tulip? Well, here you go. Here's where I produce pink tulips. I'll work on that. But yeah, other than that, I guess I was going to talk a little bit about the index, because I opened it up and looked at the hardware a bit, and I've played with it, but, to give Valve a little credit, even though I've played with the index, I haven't really sat down to really just, completely familiarize myself with the headset. Basically, I was just throwing it on to kind of start getting into things and testing things, and I've just been sufficiently distracted. I haven't even made any progress on Isle of Armor, and I probably need to go into that 3 times in order to get all of the Alola starters. Of course, there may be reasons that may be slow, but so let's talk about things here. I think when I looked at it before, I probably never pointed out the on-off button there. Who cares about that? This adjusts the focal length of the front lenses, I guess. And so one thing I did not catch while I was, opening this up a couple days ago in the clip you just saw is this here adjusts how forward backwards it is. So that's built into the headset, and that's kind of neat because that means first of all, because I was doing it initially with it so close to my face that things were just barely working, but you can move it, and you can move it so far back that, in theory, you should be able to do this with glasses. This front thing comes off for some reason. I don't know why. This comes off. It's just magnetically attached. I think I showed that last time. But one thing I didn't show was the cushiony thing in there actually goes back here. Now, I haven't been using it up to this point because I only today just discovered this thing here, which, makes this wider, and my head hasn't been able to fit in with this not in there, but it's just like, okay, fine, whatever. But now it does, and it should be relevant to actually trying it out, because my experience with this so far has been that it's been a little more painful than the HTC Vive, but given that I'm still learning how to calibrate it, that probably just means that I've just been diving in without really looking too deeply. And so this should help a lot. This means I can put this cushion in. This should actually help because I know some of the pain I was encountering was the bottom of my head, because this kind of was grasping onto my head a little bit. And I don't know if it was grasping up here too much and causing issue there, or if there really is something about this that is causing more eye strain. But the good news is, I'm figuring this stuff out. I'm pointing them out here because, the adjustability of this headset on its own is actually pretty nice. One thing I haven't looked into, but I'm pretty sure this probably has a wider FOV than, that's a field of view, than the HTC Vive. And I should really look into it and think about that and comment on that. But for now, I haven't really noticed anything. It feels like the video in here is of higher quality. It feels sharper, but also like the colors are not as... they are a little colder. I'm not sure if that's all in my head or what. And I'm not even quite sure who's messaging me right now. I still haven't found any way to do anything other than this with the headphones, but these have actually been pretty good. And I think the idea here is they are supposed to hover above the ear, which should actually help, because a lot of strain happens where you when you have the headphone cupping over the ear, and it just causes slight pressure on your ears or whatnot, and it can really hurt over time. So this helps with that. One problem I do notice with it is, because it's sticking out like this will probably make it harder for me to lay down on my side while in VR, which is something I like to do. But, that problem aside, the audio quality coming out of these has actually been pretty good, pretty crisp, clear. But then again, I don't have a very noisy environment. This might be a problem for people who, I don't know, have a bunch of siblings and they don't want to hear their kids throwing pillows against the wall in the room over, or something like that, or yelling and screaming while running down the hallway. But I don't know if that would be an actual problem with this. It may still be clear even with that sort of stuff going on. But yeah, that's the headset. It's a neat headset, but I still need to experiment with it. So otherwise, for the controllers, so I've noticed that it doesn't always seem to pick up my fingers correctly. It seems to be better on the right hand than the left hand, I think, which means that I can do the middle finger on this hand better than on this one. It's interesting because it says, doing this, I think, helps it dynamically calibrate, and I've been unconsciously doing that anyways, which is probably exactly why they have it doing that. So I guess the real question is, what do I think of this controller? And I think this is where there's a bit of a trade-off, which may mean that it's a good idea to mix and match the VR stuff, because... No, that's right. So, yeah, I was thinking that the headset... So the headset is obviously better, and probably once I adjust it correctly, I'll probably
actually be much better off. But this is where there's a trade-off. So of course you got the finger tracking. From what I've heard from other people that have it, it's a thermal thing, so it kind of detects how close your finger is thermally to the controller. So when you're holding it like this, you know, your hand is in a fist, because it just knows that's where everything is. It doesn't seem to detect the thumb as well. It knows when it's down and up, and it can detect your thumb on this pair of buttons here, this pad here, or the controller. But the main issue is that it's really hard to multitask with this. Whereas, you know, you got your HTC Vive. It's weird. It's like, how does something like this even work? But once you use it enough, it just works. So, you know, the triggers, those are obviously going to be the same. This side button is here. There's nothing like that on here. But the weird thing with the Vive is pretty much this. And this is why the Vive kind of works, because, you know, your touch is here. Your button pushing is there. It's all kind of where your thumb would naturally be holding it anyways. And with this, they kind of have it where it's naturally resting on that thing, because they don't want you accidentally pressing these buttons. But that's also kind of the issue. It's not a big issue, but it kind of means that, like, floating your thumb over here and pressing these, it's a little strenuous. If you're holding it like this, it's not a problem. But, you know, since the idea is finger tracking, you know, that versus that. And it's the same problem with using the joystick, and an even bigger problem with trying to push the button in, because there's a lot of, you know, you need some leverage. So I'm actually using my finger up here to say, there we go. So there's some awkwardness with this controller. It's nothing that's, like, unusable, but it is, you know, kind of a downside to it. So, you know, there's that interesting trade-off, but you have these, mix and match, do with them what you want, figure it all out. It's all good. Basically, yeah, I'm still getting used to it, but it's been interesting using this in VR chat. Especially since, so one of the things I'm known for in my peer groups on VR chat is, you know, being a kind of comforting source of head pats. And it's probably a weird thing if you've never gone into it, but part of it is my avatar has a very distinct look. It's definitely not one of the common base models you see around there. It's Alex Murgatroyd from Project Toho, a specific MMD model, and it's not even like one that's designed to look hyper cute. It's just kind of very pleasant. And you know, this was my first avatar, was somebody else's upload of this, and I've since taken over uploading my own version of it. But the open hand gesture has always been a kind of light smile, so that you can wave to people or head pat them, and I've always thought that it's been an important part of the model, because it you know, that's just basically part of the experience of, oh, hey, you encountered Giga Frost while he was wearing his normal avatar. And so with the Index, it's a little interesting, because with the Vive, you just touch a direction on the controller, and that one controls which gesture it is, with the trigger being fist. With the Index, the fingers are all tracked by the controller, so you don't have something where you press this button and it does the open hand, you press this button and it does the thumbs up, you press this and it's finger gun, you press this and it's rock and roll. Instead, you pretty much do those hand gestures, but with the Index, it's a turn on, turn off thing. Now, the thing that's been really problematic for me is that by default, the key bindings are such that you press in the controllers in order to turn it on, turn it off. And like I showed, that was kind of hard to do. And I was doing that with my right hand dominant hand. I think it's even harder with my left secondary hand, because I'm not that ambidextrous. But there are unused B buttons on both controllers, and so I bound that to B, and I also bound jump to B, which also was a joystick press. And it's also important because The less joystick presses you can do, the better, because that tends to be the weak part of these index controllers. When people find something breaks, it's usually that clicky thing. They should probably, I say take a note from Nintendo, but who knows, maybe they already did, and it's still a problem. But anyways, yeah, the point is, it's interesting because I kind of have to have my hands in this gesture that either doesn't change my facial expressions, which is usually fists. Fists are pretty good for that. And use that when I turn my gestures off, but when I turn them on, I can do that, and then I can just open hand and wave and get the smile, or head pat and get the smile. So I'm catching on to that real quick. But it is still one of those things where it's a little weird, but I can't help but think that it's all a little weird, because when you're with VR, I mean, ideally, it would just know that you're doing those and do those. Like, you're blinking in real life, you're looking down in real life, you're smiling in real life. But we're not quite there with VR technology. This one is just playing around with that stuff. So, it's weird, but I don't know that it's any less weird than any other VR thing you may or may not be getting used to. So I'm going to continue playing with it. I think it's fine. My HTC Vive I'm actually planning to kind of package up into a portable VR setup for game day at work. I already have the Quest for that, and the Quest is pretty good, and I could use the Quest for some of the more thorough stuff, but I think it'd be better to have the Quest continuing to be the Quest and also have an HTC Vive setup. I already have a chassis that I want to build a computer in. The only reason I'm not ordering parts is because I need to wait for something else to happen first. But I'm basically at the point where it's like, oh, well, I'm playing with this. I still need to replace those 2 lighthouses with the 2.0 lighthouses so that I can take these 1.0 and make them part of the system. But, I'll figure that all out. It's all good. So, yeah, let's see. The other thing, I guess, Half-Life Alyx, I've started playing it. I intentionally wanted to make sure I played it a little bit before this update, so I spent time yesterday to do it. And this was, before I figured out the adjustment of the headset thing, so I'm not sure how much that is good or bad, but it is pretty workable. It is very interesting how it handles forced feedback stuff pretty well. So if you're in the VR environment and you reach forward and there's a wall right here, there's nothing to prevent you from reaching past it in real life. Usually if you were in a real VR system, you have something that does pressure touching here and somehow holds your hand back without, pulling your thumbs or something like that. And technology like that, we're still working on things like that. But, we don't have that. But what Half-Life Alyx does is it does a little rumbling so you can feel that you've touched the wall, and your hand can go through, but the hand in the VR game is stuck on that wall. Maybe if you go down like this with your hand, the hand goes on the wall. But the fact that your VR hand doesn't go through, but your real hand does, works because they have the little rumble stuff. I think it was rumble. Maybe that's not what you'd call it. So that was good, and this is why the drawing in the game is so good. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it is really easy to grab a marker and then just draw on a window or a whiteboard or erase them, because the physics doesn't just go through. So it's not like drawing in the air and just trying to get as close to the wall as you can, like something like VR chat might try to do. But instead, it's kind of this simulated physics controlled by your physics suggesting where things go sort of thing. For me, for the controls, I did adjust them to be a bit more VR chat-esque. And I say that, but VR chat by default for VR has something where you take a controller and you point and your avatar walks there, and then when you release, you teleport there. And Half-Life Alyx does the same thing, but I'm okay with the ground moving around behind me. I got used to that a long time ago in VR chat. So I still have that. I do have the 45-degree changes, because I think it's called comfort turning in VR chat, and I still have that turned on. I kind of like it. I kind of still think that way. I might try and change that at some point. But, I've been using that. I really like it, and so I'm doing the same here in Alyx. About the only problem I've noticed, and I think you can play it with other VR setups, but for this one, because oh yeah, that's been a common problem where if you have your fingers closed like this, it's a grabbing onto things signal for a lot of stuff. So with VR chat, you grab onto something to hold it, and that's pretty cool. But it does mean that when I'm idling there and my hand's like this, I can walk by something and accidentally grab it. Oh shit, I'm grabbing it now. What was I thinking? I thought there was something similar with Half-Life Alyx. I mean, the grabbing there works pretty well. It doesn't work 100% perfectly, but I think a lot of that is because you have to get used to the physics engine. So when you grab the back of a chair in the game and you pull it towards you, you might expect the chair to drag, but it kind of drags with physics, so you really want to grab with both hands and then try and hit the car windshield and fail and say, oh, I guess they didn't program that in. Ah, yes. The problem I noticed has to do with, especially when I have it in this thing where I'm moving around the environment. And I'm really glad they did that. They default to something that's safer for people new to VR, but for people who are used to the ground moving beneath their feet and them sliding along, it is nice to move around. The only issue is that when you are turning with this, for example, they have actions that are caused by taking this joystick and pulling it back. In this case, this is a jump indicator, and so I can be trying to navigate myself. I've had a thing where I was trying to navigate myself into a position, and I accidentally went a little too far down with that, and initiated a jump, which caused me to jump into a barnacle tongue, and that was the one time I've used my gun to kill anything in the game. Literally, I'm not very far into it. I've only gotten far enough to get into the quarantine zone, which I assume is going to mean fighting zombies, but I haven't reached that yet, so I don't know how close I am to that. I've just gotten inside. And so that's a weird thing. It's manageable. I think it's probably nowhere near as bad as like Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. A lot of people really don't like the swinging sword back and forth thing, and Skyward Sword I thought was perfect. I actually thought Twilight Princess was perfectly fine in that regard as well on the old Wii. I think that was without the Wii Motion Plus. Were those both Wii? I don't know, but this is all thoughts, and that's kind of been my experience with the Index. It's been neat so far. I've just never really sat down to really say, okay, I'm going to get to know you. I've just been rushing into things. So hopefully this next week will give me a chance to catch up on a lot of stuff, which includes, with the Animal Crossing stuff, I do have a new goal in that I kind of now realize, oh, this is how the Happy Home Academy thing works, where every week it doesn't say, oh, you suddenly jumped up to S rank. It just says, you've got enough points to be this rank, this rank, this rank. So I've been enough points to be S rank for a long time, but my goal should probably be to get the HHA Gold Trophy. And each week it's been upgrading, and so now I realize, okay, I've been actually doing a good job of keeping ahead of that, apparently. And as of Sunday, I was only 11,000 points away from getting the gold trophy when that happens. So this Sunday will be the silver trophy, and I have enough points for that. But then the week after that is when I have the gold. So my goal is this week to get enough points to get the gold trophy next week. Other than that, breeding flowers. Pretty cool. Sounds like coworkers are working to finally have another Animal Crossing. Oh, let's all see each other's islands and let's do furniture drops or something like that. Should be interesting. I'm wondering what they think of the island because, they're like, oh, we'll see what it's been like for everybody who's been playing this game for months. I'm like, I've only had it for like 5.5 weeks. So I'm not at months yet. But, I don't know. It would be fun. Anyways, that's a whole lot of stuff. If there's anything else to mention, I guess, I mentioned this to some people in my Discord. And now that I think about it, I should probably just look into it, period. But they asked me if I've ever made any games. And I have, but they've been mostly one-off quick basic games. Or QBasic, I think, is what the latest stuff used. If you're unaware, well, I guess I don't know what all to really say about that, because BASIC as a programming language has been around for a very long time. I've first learned how to program using BASIC, and I actually did some surprisingly elaborate stuff with Quick Basic, to the point that I have to figure out what I need to do in order to get my one game that I would want to stream and play to be recorded and streamed and played, because it barely fit into the memory that QBasic allowed. It was a very elaborate game, and I do know where it is, where to get it, and where other copies may be, but you know, short term, I really should just get that. And I guess I'm not quite sure what's going to ship and arrive by next week, because I think some of the stuff from this week came out today with a street date, which is unusual for Amazon. But if next week ends up being empty, I might see if I can upload a playthrough of my one-off game, and then I'm not sure what I do in order to make it accessible. This is assuming I even remember how to play my own game, because there are some problems with it. But those are some thoughts. And maybe this helps the people who asked about it understand the situation, where it's just like, I'm not even quite sure what to tell people how to run it. My guess is DOSBox, but you'd have to do a little bit on top of it. You might need a specific version of QBasic. So I'm going to try to find out. Otherwise, you know, that's just wild update, all this stuff. Alright, y'all, have a nice week.